The Last Tinker: City of Colors is a game for PC, Mac, Linux, and PS4 by German indie studio Me Productions, and published by Daedalic, Unity, and Loot Entertainment. It came out in 2014, and while it won some awards and seems to have done fairly well, it also got some very mixed reviews. I got the game a while back, but thanks to my truly absurd game backlog, I kind of forgot about it until recently. When I finally started playing, I got sucked in immediately. As I got deeper into the game, I found myself impressed by the way the mechanics, story, and themes all came together to teach some valuable lessons, and provide an overall enjoyable experience. Curious about what had been said about the game, I sought out some reviews, and was surprised to find that they were often very shallow, neutral at best, and that, well, a lot of them had kind of missed the point. I understand that game reviewers are often under a lot of time pressure to get a game reviewed before release, and that some people might not have had the time to give it the in-depth look it deserved. But in many cases, it seemed to me to be a case of, this isn't the game I thought it was going to be, rather than, this isn't a good game. I heard and read a lot about how the platforming was too easy and the story was too predictable. There were several comments about how a platformer without a jump button is hardly a platformer at all. Well, that's true in a way, but that's not what this game is trying to be. It's hardly perfect, and there are several issues I have with it, both thematically and mechanically, which I'll address later. But it is still a very good game with a lot to offer to anyone who's willing to look beneath the surface, or anyone young enough not to notice what they're being taught. Let me back up a bit. I've had a lot of time to play and analyze this game. Writing a critique of it several years after its release gives me the luxury of really getting in-depth with it. In fact, I have so much to say about this game that I'm going to break this critique into several episodes. And while most reviews of the game so far have focused on its mechanics, I personally feel that the mechanics are nothing without the themes that drive them, so I'm going to start there. Then, in another episode, we'll look closely at those oft-criticized mechanics and see how and why they work. So, let's take a look at the story. And yes, there will be spoilers, but as others have already pointed out, there are no really shocking twists or big surprises here. If you really want to experience the game totally fresh, then by all means, stop the video, go play it, and come back once you've reached the end. But although I normally recommend playing a game before reading any critique, in this case I really don't think you'll ruin much of anything by watching this first. The player character is Koru, a monkey boy who lives in Color Town, which is in Tinker World. He can't speak, but his friend Tap speaks for him. Everything in this world is made of paper, glue, and color, and different characters, each of which is either red, green, or blue, have different personality traits. When the story begins, Color Town is falling apart. Each color district refuses to allow members of the other colors inside. Each thinks it's the best, and the others are dangerous or useless. After some red people attack and injure Tap, a purple spirit comes to Koru and promises to heal his friend if Koru will help him save Color Town. It turns out to be a trap, and the purple spirit tricks Koru into releasing the bleakness, a force of white which destroys color and is slowly eating up Tinker World. The rest of the game is spent rescuing the citizens of Color Town from the bleakness, inspiring them to work together, teaching them to respect one another, and saving the world, of course. So let's look at the themes, and before we go anywhere, we need to address the elephant in the room. This is not a game about racism. Racism is what happens when someone falsely assumes that all people with a certain color skin share the same attributes, usually negative ones. Racism is the mistaken belief that the color of someone's skin tells you something about who that person is, when in fact skin color has nothing to do with it. Common racist sentiments like that black people are all violent or that Asian people are all good at math are just plain incorrect. Although your skin color may, unfortunately, affect the way people treat you, it does not determine your level of intelligence, your personality, your hobbies, or anything else about who you are. In Tinker World, however, color actually does determine someone's personality. The red characters really are strong but aggressive. The green characters are curious but paranoid, and the blue characters are thoughtful but depressed. That is not a metaphor for racism. If it were, it would be a terrible metaphor. It would suggest that you can actually tell what someone is like by the color of their skin, something which, I have to reiterate, is not true. On the other hand, in terms of racial ideas, The Last Tinker does do one positive thing. In almost every game, every film, every book, every piece of media in Western culture, the good guys are light, and the bad guys are dark. Think about it. The light and dark sides of the Force, white and black magic, high versus dark elves, white hat and black hat hackers, the game, Black and White. There are countless examples of this, and almost none going in the other direction. We are taught, all of us, from a very young age, that dark is bad, and light is good. Small wonder that this thinking tends to leak into perceptions of race. But in The Last Tinker, you're not fighting the darkness, you're fighting the bleakness. The bleakness is white, but it's not even that it's white, it's an absence of color. White is not the good guy here, and you learn to fear it. Color is your friend, and colorful areas feel safe. The presence of white in the game world indicates danger. Everything else is saturated with bright colors. It's nice to see this white lack of color used as the bad force in a game for once. I'm not at all suggesting that we completely reverse all cultural associations and have all media show light as bad and dark as good, just that it shouldn't always be the other way around. If it makes you uncomfortable to think of the color white being used to represent evil, well, how do you think dark-skinned people feel about our culture's obsession with darkness being evil? If we get used to seeing each color sometimes be bad and sometimes be good, we can slowly start to break the cultural association of darkness with badness, something which is long overdue. As you might have guessed, I'm someone who's very concerned with what media teaches people. I'm sure some of you are already rolling your eyes and saying, it's just a game. But I'm a teacher, and I get a first-hand, front-row seat at the development of the next generation. I have seen with my own eyes how being bombarded with subtle imagery of a particular type can change a person's thinking. And this is nothing new. After all, my generation grew up watching romantic comedies with a formulaic plot that involves falling in love before you know someone, being rejected at first and then succeeding in the end, and women consistently falling in love with men who won't leave them alone, despite the women's repeated requests for them to go away. And the result? A surprising number of people have come to expect love to work the same way in real life. They expect a magical rush of so-called love when they meet someone right for them. Men frequently pursue women who have rejected them, and the realistic progression of feelings and chemicals in a relationship are mistaken for falling out of love. Sure, we can tell the difference between reality and fiction, but our subconscious can't, and that's where we make all these assumptions about how the world works. It really does matter that our media teach the right lessons and feature accurate portrayals, not the wish fulfillment we've all come to expect. All that said, what do the colors in The Last Tinker represent, if not races? Essentially, they represent simplified versions of different types of people. Each type thinks their way of doing things is best, and anyone who is different from them is inferior in some way. In Color Town, different has come to mean less, or just plain bad. The three groups have become more and more isolated, each community growing into an echo chamber of like-minded individuals who become more certain of their superiority with each passing moment. If any of this sounds familiar, well, you probably live in the modern world. Thanks to technology such as the internet, we are all now capable of surrounding ourselves with like-minded people almost all the time. We can pick and choose our friends, our leisure activities, even our news to reflect our own worldview. And the more we do that, the less we can empathize and identify with those different from us. The deeper we go into our own subculture, the more the rest of the world starts to look inferior, even dangerous. So what does The Last Tinker teach us then? The obvious answer is that it teaches that different groups can and should work together. That they're better and stronger together than apart. That being different is a good thing, not a bad thing, and that it's not only possible, it's preferable to learn to understand those different from us, and not just tolerate each other, but embrace and value each other. And no, one game with that theme is not going to save the world, but it's a trend I'd like to see more games follow. If we have enough stories like this being told, the world can and will start to adjust accordingly, especially with the younger, more impressionable generations. And this game does seem to be targeting younger audiences. The color scheme, the easy controls, the simplified story and dialogue, even the presence of a kids mode difficulty level all make this game very attractive to children. Keep that in mind as we further explore the game, because the impact a game like this can have on a child is a lot stronger than the one it would have on an adult. So that's a brief introduction to the overarching themes in The Last Tinker, but there is still a lot left to explore. In the next video, we'll take a look at the three main spirits, red, green, and blue, as well as the purple spirit and some other characters. We'll look at their stories, their personalities, their issues, and their contributions, as well as some of the problems with the game's themes and story which might inadvertently teach some bad lessons. That's right, as much as I love this game, I'm definitely going to look at the things they did wrong too. But for now, if this game has caught your interest and you haven't played it yet, I do recommend picking it up and giving it a try. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.